Salem, Massachusetts might be known for its witch trials and witch hysteria, but people all across New England were tried as witches in the 17th century. This video is about the Witch of Hadley, Mary Webster, also known as Half-Hanged Mary. Mary Webster was born Mary Reeve in England in about 1624, and she and her family moved to the Massachusetts Bay Colony and settled in Springfield. In 1670, Mary married William Webster, and the two settled about 20 miles north in the small Puritan town of Hadley. William was actually the son of one of the founders of Hadley, but he somehow lost all the money and property, and he and Mary lived in a small townhouse, which was housing for the poor, and they had very little money and often needed help from the town to survive. Mary was in her 50s, which was considered old back then. She was jaded and cranky and was known for her fiery personality and sharp tongue. The town didn't really like her, and she often fought back. This made her a target. Mary's neighbors started calling her a witch and accused her of messing with their livestock. She lived in a meadow, and some of the farmers said that she had placed a spell on their cattle and horses so they couldn't go past her house. To solve this problem, they went and disturbed her, which basically meant going to her house and beating her so she couldn't cast any more spells. And this apparently worked, and the animals were able to pass her house. In another story, Mary went to someone's house and a hen fell down the chimney and into a pot of boiling water. Mary was later found to have a burn mark on her body, probably from being splashed by that hot water, but the neighbors said it was a witch mark. And they also said that the hen was probably her familiar and she was using it to spy on people. In March of 1683, the Northampton County Court magistrates examined Mary on suspicion of witchcraft. They sent her to Boston to be tried as a witch, where she was acquitted and sent back to Hadley. That didn't stop the rumors, though. Trigger warning, this section gets pretty graphic. Lieutenant Philip Smith was a member of the court that had sent Mary to Boston, and about a year and a half after the examination, he was mysteriously dying. Before he got sick, he had run into Mary begging, and I guess she wasn't happy with his offering and probably yelled at him. The paranoid man then got sick and decided that she must have bewitched him. Philip was a prominent member of the community, so of course everyone believed him. I don't know what Philip had, but he began experiencing fits and episodes of delirium and extreme pain. He said he would feel pins poking his arms and legs. People around him also experienced weird things. Some people would feel something the size of a cat on his bed, but they couldn't catch it. Others saw fire that would appear and then disappear on his bed. Pots of medicine would mysteriously be emptied, and people heard scratching coming from his bed even when his hands and feet weren't moving. To relieve his suffering, a group of young men would go and disturb Mary, and that would put Philip at ease for a while. But Philip continued to get sicker, so the men decided to drag Mary out of her house and hang her on a tree in the meadow by her house until they thought she was dead. Then they took her down and buried her in the snow. Unfortunately for them, this did not work, and Philip soon died. To make things even weirder, his body was swollen and they found bruises and holes on his back. He died on a Saturday, and on Sunday his body was still warm. On Monday, he had blood running down his cheek. People also heard voices and noises coming out of his room after he died as well. Mary, however, was still alive, which is where Half-Hanged Mary comes from. She actually lived another 11 years after this. And the townspeople saw this as a sign that she must be a witch, so they continued to harass her for the rest of her life. It is said, though, that she died peacefully. Mary Webster was buried in the Old Hadley Cemetery in 1695. I actually went there to try to find her gravestone, but the stones from the 17 and 1800s were really faded and hard to read, so there was no way I was going to find a headstone from 1695. It was a very kind of small, eerily unnoticeable cemetery, though. Philip Smith's side of the story was recorded by Cotton Mather, who played a prominent role in the Salem witch trials but lived nowhere near Hadley, in his 1702 book Magnalia Christi Americana. Canadian author Margaret Atwood is potentially a descendant of Mary Webster, and she wrote her 1995 poem Half-Hanged Mary about her, and she dedicated her 1985 novel The Handmaid's Tale to Mary. So these are just a couple other witch hunts in the area that I wanted to mention. Mary Bliss was born in England in 1628 and moved with her family to Hartford, Connecticut, where she married Joseph Parsons in 1646. The couple moved to Springfield, Massachusetts and bought a tract of land from a local Native American tribe in what would become Northampton, Mass. They were very well off, owning land in Springfield, Northampton, Hadley, and Boston, and they had very healthy children. This led to a jealousy feud with a neighboring family, the Bridgemans, who were struggling financially and had lost several children. In the 1650s, Sarah started spreading rumors about Mary being a witch until Mary's husband filed slander charges against her and won. In 1674, after the death of her daughter, Sarah formally charged Mary with witchcraft. After a trial in Boston, Mary was acquitted, but that didn't stop the rumors. So the Parsons moved back to Springfield, but the rumors followed them there, and Mary had to deal with them for the rest of her life. Connecticut's witch hysteria actually took place 30 years before the one in Salem, and Alse Young was the first person to be executed for witchcraft in all of the American colonies. She was born in England in 1615 and moved to Windsor, Connecticut in the 1630s. Not much is known about her, but she might have been married to John Young, who owned land in Windsor, Connecticut, and she might have been eligible to inherit his property. This would have made her a target. There was also a flu epidemic taking place in New England, and people were dying at extremely high rates, so she might have been chosen as a scapegoat at random. Alse was hanged as a witch in Hartford, Connecticut in 1647 at the age of 32. The Salem witch trials get a lot of publicity, but witch hysteria took over all of New England before, during, and after the infamous witch trials. I'm not going to analyze these cases because I think that the classist and sexist implications of these witch hunts are pretty obvious. I just think it's important that these stories get told. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.